Good evening. Good evening. The May 14th, 2024 regular meeting of the Mentor Exempted Village Board of Education is called to order. This meeting is being held in accordance with Section 3313.15 of the Ohio Revised Code. Please place your mobile phones on silent mode for the meeting. Mr. Wade, please call the roll.
Ms. Iapolo.
Here.
Ms. Jessling.
Present.
Ms. Marchaza.
Present.
Ms. Payne.
Here.
Ms. Cook.
Here. Thank you. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, please join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of Eric, Elias, and Officer Jacob Durbin. Thank you. I would like to welcome everyone to the May 14th, 2024 regular meeting of the Mentor Exempted Village Board of Education. Prior to this evening, each board member has received for their review and consideration the agenda and materials associated with each agenda item for the board's approval via the district's paperless Board of Education agenda system board docs. The public can access the agenda through the school district's website. The agenda is available through the district's website for public viewing the Sunday prior to the board meeting. Board members have the opportunity to call the superintendent and chief financial officer for information concerning agenda items and to request, if needed, additional information. There are two places on the agenda where the board entertains comments from the community. The first hearing of the public is dedicated to those who wish to address the board on agenda items only. And the second hearing of the public is dedicated to those who wish to address the board on any subject, whether it be an item on the agenda or another topic. To participate in the hearing of the public section, interested speakers must sign up prior to the start of the meeting. Sign-ups are available online through the school district's website or on-site prior to 7 p.m. You will be called to the microphone when it is your turn to speak, and at that time, we ask that you please state your name and address your questions to the board president. Each person may speak only once per segment, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. The purpose of the hearing of the public is for our community members to address the board. The board continues to welcome feedback from the community as an important component to conducting business. This is an information gathering opportunity for the board and administration so that we can work to best serve our community. If at the end of the public participation we do not make a statement, please know this does not demonstrate a lack of care for comments shared by our community. Rather, we want to be thoughtful in our approach, and we will provide a response in a timely manner when appropriate. In an effort to maintain an orderly meeting, based on Ohio Revised Code 2917.12 and Board Policy 0169.1, any person doing any act which obstructs or interferes with the conduct or orderly progress of the board meeting will be warned and or removed from the meeting. This meeting is being shown live and can be viewed on demand on our YouTube channel, Cardinal TV Mentor, Ohio. Thank you. And at this time, we have district highlights and recognitions.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade. Tonight we are recognizing several students for their outstanding achievements. I'd like to start this evening by inviting Mr. Hammond to the podium to begin the presentations.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Heath, and Mr. Wade. This evening, it's my great pleasure to recognize our middle school Science Olympiad students and advisors that qualified for the state competition. This year, the Science Olympiad State Tournament was held on April 27th at The Ohio State University campus. Middle school division ended up with 40 competing teams. Memorial, out of those 40, finished in 7th place overall, which is highly commendable. At this time, I would like to read those top finishes. They earned a second in forestry, a second place in fossils, second place in Reach for the Stars, third place in anatomy, third place in disease detectives, fourth place in fast facts, fourth place in microbe mission, fourth place in wheeled vehicle, sixth place in crime busters, a sixth place in meteorology, and a sixth place in optics. Advisors are Ms. Kim Driscoll and Mrs. Lena Malik. It's important to point out that what a huge accomplishment this is. We're excited to see what the future holds for all of these great minds. At this time, I'd like to share the names of the team members at Memorial Middle School. At this time, if I could have Ms. Driscoll and Mrs. Malik come up to join me. I would also like the Memorial team captains at this time to help us with shaking the hands of your teammates, Owen Medved and Michael Hardy Elwell. If you would, we have a lengthy list, so hold your applause until we get all of them through here. Students, when you come up, please shake Ms. Driscoll's hand, Michael's hand, and then come on around and shake all the board members' hands, and then end up over this way so we can look at you all at one time. Okay? Max Billings, Christian Edwardson, Shafian Hassan, Dylan Fedor, Isabella Grabowski, Kaylee Hall, Nolan Harney, Cameron Lowe, Joey Marchaza, Samantha McGinnis, Nathan Meckler, Michael Ngin, Adam Oliver, Corbin Ott, Kevin Pastor, Elizabeth Plumley, Jacob Prainer, Brooks Romberg, Calvin Rice, AJ Ritz, Gino Ritz, Finn Rude, Corey Sachs Nielsen, Maria Schwickert, Alex Shee, Demetrius Strategakos, Emily Swigert, Jack Zemansky Smith, Everett Zemansky Smith, Alexandra Tamura, Mason Wills, Charlie Yoke. Congratulations. You guys may have a seat. Thank you very much. Well done. Now on to the high school. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Heath and Mr. Wade. This evening, it's my great pleasure to recognize our Mentor High School Science Olympiad students and advisors that qualified for the state competition. They also had 40 competing teams in their division. They finished 8th overall. They had 9 top 10 finishes. Winning medals were state champions in the category of scrambler, silver medalists in the category of write it, do it, 4th place in detector building, 4th place in geologic mapping, 4th place in robot tour, 6th place in disease detectives, 6th place in optics. Advisors are Mrs. Michelle Pugh and Dr. Michael Horvath, and if they would join me at this time. Okay. I'm going to recognize our two captains. One could not be with us tonight. The other one, first of all, the first captain is Afan Taha. The second one is Robbie Land. Robbie can't be here tonight as he's presenting his science research project at the International Science and Engineering Fair in Los Angeles, California. Wow. Awesome. At this time, I'm going to read off the high school students' names. Benjamin Billings, Brianna Boyd, Aiden Durrani, Ayesha Faruqi, Parker Geiger Duganzik, Zachary Gibson, Emily Gerard, Kayla Hinkle, Abigail Horvath, Leah Meckler, Caitlin Morris, Nathaniel Lowe, Brian Oliver, Drew Parker, Charles Partlow, Charles, Mark Pastor, Joseph Rezis, Ria Reyna, Gavin Rick, Jaden Russell, LaRon Shams, Tatiana Sowerby, Mally Tehan, Benjamin Yoke, Anushri Zimmerman. I forgot to mention, Tayana could not be here tonight. She is also presenting at the ISEF in LA. Students, hang tight for just a minute. Congratulations to all these students who worked incredibly hard, as well as the middle school, in preparing for the state competition and showing excellent results. Thank you to our event coaches who are teachers or parents and give up their time each week to prepare students for their event. These coaches are a huge factor in the success of our Science Olympiad teams. In addition, a special shout out to our parents for your support throughout the season. Thank you. All of you contribute in some way, and it most definitely makes a difference. And speaking on behalf of the advisors and all the coaches and team members, they would like to thank the members of the board for all your support. Thank you. One more item before I relinquish the podium. At this time, I would like to recognize a member of our Mentor Police Department who is helping us one last time in his official role. Officer John Walker will be retiring very soon, and this evening is his final off-duty assignment. Please join me in sharing our appreciation for Officer Walker.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade, at this time I would like to invite Dr. Glavin to the podium for the CTE recognitions.
Mr. Lynch, great guy. All right, so Mrs. President, members of the board, Mr. Heath, Mr. Wade, tonight I am here to help recognize our students who participate in our career tech education programs and qualified to the state competition, and in some cases finished among the highest in the state. Through their participation, students are able to gain work-based learning experiences and knowledge about careers and industries that can help guide their decisions post-high school. Through my own personal interactions and in reality, the last couple of weeks, it's been really nice to reflect as we kind of close down the year. It's just so humbling, and I'm so appreciative to have the opportunity to interact with these students and kind of see how these programs are helping inform their decisions as them and their families make this, the choices for the next steps, what they're going to do after high school. I'm honored to say that we have 70 of our students who qualified for the state competition in their CTSO, which is Career Tech Student Organization. This is a true testament to the type of quality instruction and programming being provided by our instructors. Now, before I recognize these students, I would like to ask if Mentor High School Principal Jason Ryan Crow, if you can come up here so you can equally shake hands with these students with me. Thank you, sir. Now, what I would say is that now I'm going to recognize students by their CTSO organization. And I would ask that we go ahead and hold applause until all students of a CTSO are called. Now, if you were to clap for each of those students, we may be able to be in the running for the longest board meeting on record. I know that one, it would have to go past midnight, but I am willing to at least be here for part of it. So we're going to start with our DECA students, where we had over 22 students who qualified for the state competition. DECA prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management in high school and colleges around the globe. When I say your name, I'd ask you to please come up, and I'm going to have you guys stay over here. We are going to have all of our CTSO qualifiers come up at one time, so stay up till the end. We're going to start with, I see this person quite a bit. It's fantastic. Robert Pruitt, please come on down here. And what I'm, yeah, we can clap. And what I, go ahead. That's nice. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to share with you guys, when I call each of these state qualifiers in, I'm going to share the category that they qualified in, just because I think it's so impressive to kind of see the categories. And so Mr. Pruitt was in accounting applications. On a side note, Mr. Pruitt has recently been awarded a full scholarship to Cleveland State University. I had a chance to be with his grandma last week at our other event, and she was extremely impressed. It was funny. For our next person, Elena Richards, who qualified in apparel and accessories marketing. And yeah, I'll go ahead, I'll say the name, and then you guys clap, and then I'll say the category. That'll work out well. Our next person is Alex Abernathy. Alex qualified in apparel and accessories marketing. Next student is Jack Johnson. And that was in business finance. Next student is Michael Waters. And that is in entrepreneurship. We have Tyler Spackman. He's in hotel and lodging management. And then Micah Norris Reynolds. I'm just going to turn this so I can shake hands too, if that's okay. Micah Norris Reynolds was in human resource management. We have Elise Patty. Which is also human resource management. Nathan Wickman. That's in marketing communications. Sydney Stark. In retail merchandising. Dylan Dickerson. And that's in sports and entertainment marketing. Next one is Salvatore Masiello. In business finance. We have Dominic Baroni. and that was in buying and merchandising team decision-making. We have Patrick Collins. That was also in buying and merchandising team decision-making. Emily Crozen. And that was in Principles of Business Management and Administration. We have Jaden Russell. And that was Principles of Business Management and Administration. Brian McNogna. And Principles of Finance. We have Raja Mills. And Principles of Finance as well. We have Tia McDonald. Also Principles of Finance. And then Lily Waters. Principles of Hospitality and Tourism. Margaret Haydu. Which is also Principles of Hospitality and Tourism. And then Samuel Gasky. Which is Principles of Marketing. Now, we do have a few CTSOs. Our next one I'll be moving on to is HOSA and also FCCLA. So HOSA is Future Health Professionals, and this is a national organization of secondary and post-secondary students that support career development in health professions and improvement of health services delivery to the general population. After high school, over 90% of HOSA students continue to pursue a career in the health professions. We have 18 students who qualified for the HOSA state competition. And in addition, I'm going to share our student who qualified in the FCCLA, which is the Family Career Community Leaders of America. And this is an organization that students in our Culinary Academy participate in. So at this time, I'm going to start with our Family Career Community Leaders of America and Braden Clarity. Braden was in product development. And now on to our HOSA. Our first one is going to be Donia Saperstein. Donia qualified in medical reading. Next one is Aaron Evola. Aaron qualified in home health aid. Miranda Rich. Miranda qualified in veterinary science. Jillian Funk. Jillian qualified in pharmacology. Rachel Hayes. Rachel was in sports medicine. Sorry, 1 second, I'm getting there. And then Harmony Battle. Which is in medical assisting. We have Natalie Blatnick. Natalie was in medical assisting. We have Tyson Sadrowski. Tyson qualified to state in clinical nursing. We have Joelle Dar. Joelle was in clinical nursing. And then Dayona Gary. And that was in clinical nursing. We have Naya Vaughn. Naya was in medical spelling. Ryan Robinson. Medical spelling. We have Aaliyah Spielman. Aaliyah was in pharmacology. Taylor Link. Also pharmacology. Desiree Smith. Desiree qualified in biotechnology. Madison Drake. That was home health aide. Elizabeth Hoyt. And Julia Bruschi. And that was in phlebotomy, which is awesome. And now on to our last CTSO I'll be discussing tonight, which will be Skills USA, which is our last one, but also our largest, so okay. Skills USA is a partnership of students, teachers, and industry working together to ensure America has a skilled workforce. Skills USA serves middle school, high schools, and college post-secondary students preparing for careers in trade, technical, and skilled service, including health occupations. Skills USA empowers its members to become world-class workers, leaders, and responsible American citizens. We had over 29 students qualify for the state competition. Our first student is Katie Jackson. And that was in the art showcase. Savannah Smith. Also in the art showcase. We're not going to beat that record by running. Maya Tadeo. Also, art showcase. And then we have Scott Fisk. That was in Career Pathway Showcase. We have Kara Kokab. That was also Career Pathway Showcase. And then Megan Meeker. Also Career Pathway Showcase. I'll add a tidbit here in 1 second. So Scott Fisk, Kara Kokab, and Megan Meeker all achieved silver placement and a runner-up state finish in their category. So congratulations to them. Ari Prabilski. That was creative sculpture. Adriana Seck. That was in engineering. We have Shane Kretschy. Firefighting, awesome. Nico Sabatini. Kendra Prezella. Just in case anything happens, she was runner-up in the state in first aid CPR, so. Ryan Meitzner. Ryan was in automotive maintenance and light repair. Samuel Braddock. Samuel was in carpentry, and it was amazing what I watched him build in a span of 2 hours down in Columbus at the competition. It was pretty cool. Next two students are EMT students. We have Ryan Saley. Also an EMT, we have Ryan Skelly. Fun fact, Ryan Skelly is the son of our school resource officer, Jack Skelly, right over there. So it is great to see a proud father right there. Public. And mother, of course, as well. You have a uniform. Oh, we can clap for mom. We also have Jonathan Dodovic. I was in customer service. We have Lisa Guzio. Lisa qualified in interactive applications and video game design. We have William Jones. Also interactive applications and video game design. Aiden Switalski. Aiden qualified in cybersecurity, so that is fantastic. We need that. We also have Dominic Bernardiniti. Dominic also qualified to the state competition in cybersecurity. We have the next four students that I'm about to announce. They were the bronze medalists. They came in third place in the state, and they have also, we recently found out, it was yesterday afternoon, that they have qualified to go to the national competition that's going to be down in Atlanta, Georgia, June 22nd through the 29th. So the next students, I'm going to go ahead and first one is going to be Rowan Garding Smith. And they qualified in the entrepreneurship series, which is awesome. Tony Guillen. Tony's not going to be able to accompany us because he is going to be out of the country visiting Vietnam, which is awesome. Just blew my mind. Connor Forsyth. Zoltan Harsani. Just a few more. Griffin Lacker. That was in web design. We also have Evan Malacher. Not only did Evan qualify for web design to the state competition, he also is probably one of the best office aides we have at Mentor High School. I think I bother him every day he's eating his lunch, but. Paxton Warren. Paxton was in the Career Pathway Showcase. Davion Davis. And then certainly not our least but last state qualifier, Alexander Seifert. And that was in Career Pathway Showcase as well. So at this time, please join me in congratulating our 2024 CTSO state qualifiers. Guys, because I have an iPhone for my photo, do you guys mind just condensing a little bit? Just, I mean, there's the panoramic like makes it weird and skinny. Hang on. All right. Now, as they're leaving, I hope you do not mind, but there is one additional thing that we were going to do really quick. Can the officers of Skills USA please come on up here? We just have we received an award, and we were going to just do kind of a quick special presentation to you guys of something we received from the state, which we thought was really great. And as opposed to hearing from me, which you guys have probably heard enough of, I know Mr. Wade has, we are going to go ahead and have them come up here, and then Rowan will take it from there. Who's coming up with you? Rowan, it'll be... All right, are you ready? Go ahead and read that.
All right. Mrs. President, members of the board, Mr. Heath and Mr. Wade, as representatives of the Skills USA local officer team, we'd like to thank our board for supporting our many Skills USA events and activities from a local, regional, state, and national level. This year, we applied for Chapter of Excellence designation through our events and industry partnerships that our chapter engaged in, specifically volunteering with the food market, Little Leaders at the Jump Yard, and information technology events through the Greater Cleveland Partnership. Our colors, let me just unravel this for you guys. Our colors, which are represented on this flag, have meaning. The colors red, white, blue, and gold represent the National Skills USA organization. Red and white represent the individual states and chapters. Blue represents the common union of the states and the chapters. Gold represents the individual, the most important element of our organization. We'd like to award you with this commemorative flag to say thank you for your support. We are only one of 13 schools in the state of Ohio to receive this designation, and we would like to share this recognition with you. Would a representative please come forward to accept this flag?
Now I'm really done. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wade, I forgot to give Mr. Glavin a time limit today. We always love hearing about the success of our students, so anytime we can celebrate them, the better. Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade, actually, before I start that, if I could have Ginny Vaccaro please join me at the podium. At this time, I would like to recognize several staff members from the high school for their heroic, life-saving efforts during a critical medical emergency that took place on Friday, March 15th, 2024. We had one of our cafeteria workers at the high school that went into cardiac arrest, and the swift actions of our nutrition services team at the high school saved her life. At this time, I would like to ask each of those members to come forward as I read their name. Rachel Bajak, Rebecca Black, Kim Braddock, Marika Kondrich, Deanna Fidega, Samar Ibrahim, Terry Conti, Tracy Krejci, Kathy Lardner, Bernadette Martici, Dolores Medich, Michelle Robinson, Ronnie Schimmels, Jamie Stanek, Karen Zook, and then our materials handler, Tim Gladowski, and our nurse, Jeremy Golden. We are also honored this evening to have Joy with us. So I would ask Joy Yamani to please come forward.
Trying to get away.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade, at this time I would like to invite Ms. Pern to the podium for an OAESA recognition.
Thank you. I promise I won't take as much time as Mr. Glavin did, if he's still here. Thanks, Joe. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Heath, and Mr. Wade. I'm Melanie Pern, principal of Fairfax Elementary in the district, but tonight I'm serving as past president of the Ohio Association of Elementary School Administrators. And I am here to recognize a fellow elementary school for their hard work to earn the OAESA Hall of Fame Award this year. I appreciate you giving me the time to recognize the students, staff, and families of Sterling Morton this evening. Out of approximately 2,500 elementary and middle level schools from across Ohio, only 7 of them have been chosen to receive this award this year. In order to apply, schools must be nominated by someone. Once they accepted the nomination, the staff worked through a long 13-page application that provided extensive detail about the mission, vision, programming, and culture of the school. It then moves to a blind reading of all applications by a team of principals from across the state, with a scoring component using a standard rubric. The top scoring schools receive a site visit by a different team of principals who spend at least a half day touring the school and talking with various stakeholders. After the visitations are completed, the scores from the readers and the visitors are combined and averaged, and only the top schools are awarded this Hall of Fame status, with no more than 10 each year. This is what the visiting team had to say about Sterling Morton Elementary School. The staff at Sterling Morton Elementary School like to refer to their school as the best kept secret in the district. After spending the morning there, our visitors shared that nothing about Sterling Morton should be kept a secret. As a true community school, Sterling Morton is clearly the hub for all activities. Many family events are held each year, along with student performances in both performing and visual arts. Teachers noted that Mr. Porter's mantra of love them first, teach them second, has allowed them to truly come together to do what's best for students. They proudly described how there is never hesitation if a need is evident. They all help out all the students. As one staff member said, because we are happy, the kids are happy. At this time, I would like to recognize Mr. Bill Porter and the Sterling Morton staff. Congratulations on a job well done. This is just oh, come on down. You guys are the reason you're getting this award. You can't hang out back there. This is just an in the interim award for right now. They will receive a beautiful plaque this summer at our OAESA conference down in Columbus at Easton. So in June, you will have a nice, beautiful plaque, so you better find a good spot at Sterling Morton to display it proudly. Congratulations.
This is not a surprise. Well done. You guys are amazing. Very well done. You make us so proud. Thank you for all you do. Congratulations.
Good. This is my alma mater. Go Frog. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And to highlight Sterling Morton even further, we have put together a lovely compilation video about the school, so enjoy.
Hey, hey, what do you say? It's gonna be a wonderful day.
I really feel so lucky to be part of this school. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. There's just such a sense of belonging here. You can see it when kids are walking into our building every morning. The teachers are here greeting them, so excited to see them. It's just a really good way to start our day.
So clap your hands and turn around, give a high five, and then sit down.
We have the best students here. Good morning, lovely children. Happy Friday. So we thought we were going to wish our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders good luck the other day at an all-school assembly.
We did. We just thought it was for state testing to kind of boost the morale, get the kids excited about state testing. Our principal kind of threw in a little surprise for us.
State of Ohio as a
Little did we know that we were getting presented with the Hall of Fame Award.
Hall of Fame school.
It was just such a surprise and so exciting for our building.
Hall of Fame Award is given to schools each year by the Ohio Association of Elementary School Administrators, and we were fortunate enough this year to be honored as one of 7 schools in Ohio to receive the award. This really speaks to, not just the last year or two of work at the building by the students, staff, families, but I think it's several years in the making, because you have to have kind of a culture of excellence, and we're really proud of this.
Who still has to finish their writing? It's such a good feeling when the whole school is being recognized, not just individual teachers, but it's really just showing how well we all work together and how we all are so deserving of this award. Not just one person, but everyone who collaborates and works together in this building.
All the students, everyone in this building played a huge role in this. They were very proud of themselves knowing that this is not an award that we've gotten before. So they are a part of such a big award for our school and such a big award for our district.
This concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a lot to be proud of. At this time, we'll take a short break to allow for anyone who would like to leave to exit. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I do have something I'd like to say. We're an educational institution, and to attract and retain high-quality staff, we need a community where good people want to work. Our role is to prepare the next generation to take their places as productive citizens, and we should model the very behavior we expect of them. These monthly business meetings are embarrassing to our town. Veiled threats, rude behavior, intimidation, and verbal attacks have turned some of them into a spectacle, and what possible good can come from that? Our emails come from across the ideological spectrum. It's not lopsided. In life, that usually means that most people are somewhere in the middle. Our board elections show that same span among voters. Results from this month's survey will reveal more about what our community wants and expects, and we'll take that feedback to heart. The small data sample that the Levy consultants gathered last October clearly showed that, at the very least, people want us to move on and to focus on other problems. That spurred the policy to empower parents to have full control over what their children are reading. Despite the compromise, some attacks continue. If we emphasize chaos and negativity, how will that help us to support the district that we've been proud of for over 100 years? Social media is the worst offender of all.
Sorry, point of order. Is this related to the agenda?
Yes, I was basing it on the commentary that's listed. There's small capsule summaries of what folks have been saying.
Okay, so we're looking to adjust the meeting minutes then?
This is discussion before we approve.
Okay.
Okay. Social media is the worst offender of all. We agree that there are dangers embedded in it for our teenagers. It holds a mirror up to the sender and brings out the worst in far too many of us and reflects poorly on our town. I try to attend as many school events as I can. That's been my habit since I was first elected, and I'm proud to know how many hardworking, high-quality people are doing everything they can to help our students thrive. We can't let that be overshadowed by the negative impressions our meetings create. Is everything perfect? Of course not. A district our size is a complex organization with lots of moving parts, but we're stalled on a handful of topics that are consuming time and money that would be better invested on some of those other issues that we all agree need priority attention. Each year, our seniors become voters. What we model for civic engagement can help them to find their voices. We've thought about including students as part of our boardsmanship, and that's a wonderful idea. But my protective instincts make me worry that they could become targets of the same venom thrown casually at us. Most parents would agree that crude and ugly remarks are not what we want surrounding the next generation. And who could expect a student to sacrifice 4 or 5 hours of time on a school night just to be immersed in a rancorous atmosphere? We listen to all commentary. I want to believe that anyone coming forward to speak at these meetings wants only the best for Mentor Schools. And whether or not people respect us as individuals, it's right and proper to show respect for this setting, just as a matter of good citizenship. I'm asking that every person who joins us in these seats models the decorum that we would want to see our children display. Ugly epithets and coarse language don't send a good message about the quality of our community, and this weighs heavily on me because Mentor's kids deserve better.
Any additional discussion? Mr. Wade, please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Minutes are approved 5-0.
Next, we have hearing of the public on agenda items only.
Our first speaker is Brandy Shiner.
Good evening. This is my first time up here, so I'm a little nervous. We at Support Public Education in Mentor are thrilled about Mentor High School's impressive ranking in the U.S. News and World Report. We present these numbers as good old-fashioned math on why our superintendent deserves his contract renewal. Here are the numbers. Mentor Public Schools ranked 152nd out of 707 Ohio districts ranked. That is within the top 22% of all districts in Ohio. Looking at the number of high schools, regardless of the district, the numbers look even more impressive. Mentor High School ranked 152nd out of 941 high schools. That is in the top 16% of all high schools in Ohio. MHS has a graduation rate of 94%. Mentor Schools is not only great, but getting better. Mentor High moved up 19 spots from last year's ranking. This is phenomenal progress. Finally, let's look at the national numbers. MHS ranked 4,224 out of over 17,000 total high schools ranked. That is in the top 24% of all high schools in the USA. A hearty congratulations to our entire school board, Mr. Heath, Mr. Wade, and all the teachers and staff that serve Mentor High School and the Mentor Public Schools as a whole. Well done. As a former student of Mr. Heath's from his first year teaching straight out of Kent State, more than a couple of years ago, I must say I am so very proud of the educational professional you are. I am honored that you are the superintendent of the district that I chose to send my children to, and it is my pleasure to speak on behalf of renewing your contract. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our second speaker is Linda O'Brien.
Good evening. Mr. Heath, my comments are directed to you. I received an email from your office recently indicating that a survey was to go out to our children and that if we wanted to opt our children out of the survey, that we should indicate so. Not having a survey to look at, I emailed back asking to have the survey sent to me. I was told that I wasn't allowed to see the survey. I pushed back and said, that's unacceptable. Where is the transparency? And I was told, we don't own the survey, so we can't share it with you. I pushed back again and said, I was an independent business consultant for over 30 years. I administered countless surveys. When my client paid me, the survey was theirs. Therefore, I found less than truth in the statement that you did not own the survey. The only option given to me was that I had to be inconvenienced and go to the Shore School and see this survey on a computer. It was important, so I did so. And I was disgusted with what I saw. I will tell you, it was one of the worst created surveys I have ever seen. It was unclear, there was a lack of direction, there was confusion about how to respond, and to validate that, afterwards, I talked to some of the students and asked them, exactly how was that survey for you? And they said, we didn't understand it. We had to ask our teacher. Why did they ask us to do this? And my question to you is exactly that. Why did we do that survey? And how much money did you waste of our taxpayers' money in our contribution on creating that survey? Because the fact is, there was no transparency, there was no parental rights that were honored, and the situation should never have happened without the parents first being able to review the survey. That is what we do when we operate with integrity. So I see now that you are up for renewal of your contract, and I want you to know, as a consultant, I vote no. Mentor deserves better. Mentor deserves a superintendent of integrity, one that has knowledge, can assess value, and will take ownership of what they pay for. We deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mackenzie McAllister.
Good evening. My name is Mackenzie McAllister, and my son is a student in the Mentor Public School District. It is amazing to me that 3 members and the superintendent continually undermine the rights of the parents at every turn. Emails go unanswered, and concerns from parents and taxpayers get tossed by the wayside. It is confusing that I have to stand up at this podium and beg for pornographic material to be removed from our libraries. It is even worse to have to worry about a young woman's right to use her own bathroom at school because you allow a biological male who identifies as a female to enter their safe space. You as a whole are supposed to vote with the majority and make accommodations for the minority. Instead, a young woman was told she can use the nurse's bathroom if she felt uncomfortable. Why is this? May I remind you, the school board was intended to facilitate local governance, maximize parental involvement, and create proper accountability for voters and parents. However, in the recent years, these hallmarks have been lost due to increasingly nationalized woke agenda. The school board and its superintendent have become an ideologically driven command center, shaping curriculum and pushing their radical agendas. You have successfully created a top-down, super woke structure that is overriding the parents' involvement in the children's right to learn. The school board has become explicitly political with exclusively political objectives. The curriculum change has shifted away from critical thinking skill and started indoctrinating them on what to think. There is no reason for there to be instruction on gender identity, gender, sexuality, or racial identity in our school system. Sir, if this continues, you will not only get a levy that does not pass, this district will find itself in a lawsuit you will not win. Safety in the schools where there's physical violence does not need SEL. They need a stronger leadership and follow through with discipline, which is severely lacking. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe your contract is up for renewal. It is not until next year, though. We also have not seen test scores from this year's state testing. Let me remind you, per Ohio Department of Education, math proficiency is at a 48%, and reading is at 76%, so I'm baffled by our graduation rate of 94%. That's for another day, though. Unfortunately, it seems the curriculum is so far off that the basics have forgotten to be taught, resulting in failing grades for math and subpar levels for reading. Unacceptable. It is also unacceptable to ask for a contract renewal raise without results. Why would anyone in good conscience even ask for a raise renewal at this point without proven results? Could it be that a raise renewal will increase your retirement? Food for thought, parents and taxpayers. Any and all discussion for renewal and raise should be tabled until June after the results are released.
Thank you.
Figures.
Our next speaker is Jacqueline McCormick.
Good evening. I'm hoping to get through my 3-minute speech without Madam President screaming to shut off my microphone. That was an awkward moment, wasn't it? You should all thank Mrs. Payne for her guidance on the legalities of your actions. Tonight's agenda includes discussion and a vote on Superintendent Heath's contract and salary. It is my understanding that he was hired in July of 2022 on a 3-year contract. He has not even completed the 2nd year of the original contract, but is already asking for a renewal and a raise. This usually occurs after a lengthy list of positive actions and improvements on the part of the superintendent. While it is true there have been baby steps accomplished, there is an alarmingly long list of things that still need to be addressed. First of all, Mentor Schools is currently facing some real financial shortfalls due to the community failing to pass a new levy last November. The outlook for a future levy is grim. Is this really the time for the head of that school district to ask for more money in his paycheck? Top issues facing our school district are academics, inappropriate books in our libraries, and the overall safety of our kids. Our students took the state test last month. Results are expected to be returned by the end of June. It is difficult to base Mr. Heath's contract on test scores that we have yet to see. There should be no contract renewal until those results can be viewed by parents, teachers, and the community. Inappropriate books and those that contain sexually explicit content remain in our libraries. Our policy states that we must address these books and that our schools must offer opposing views on controversial topics. As of tonight, Mr. Heath and our school board have done nothing to address this. There has been lots of discussion, lots of finger pointing, and lots of suggestions for solutions and improvements, but not one thing has actually been accomplished. In regards to the overall safety of our children, SROs in each building seems to be improving somewhat, and we appreciate that. The bell-to-bell no cell policy also seems to be helping. Thank you for that. However, fistfights, bullying, and overall unsafe situations continue to occur on a regular, almost daily basis. This needs to stop. Administration needs to step up and create meaningful consequences, and the general consensus is They don't. To quote Mr. Heath at a previous board meeting, we can't suspend our way out of this problem. That was an interesting statement. There are many areas that need improvement. We need to see substantial improvements in your decision-making and communication skills, Mr. Heath. I would recommend that we address your renewal at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gil Martello.
I apologize. It's going to seem a bit disjointed. I spent the last week, most brutal work week I've had in quite some time. I've lost 2 senior people due to health concerns. Their positions cannot be filled. Good evening, Mr. Heath, Mr. Wade, members of the board. Some of you may or may not realize our district enjoys the benefit of heavy industry. If we were to lose those businesses, our tax base would collapse. We all understand Mr. Heath's position. He's answerable to the board. And right now, the majority of this board is aligned with basically left-leaning ideology, and my peers laid that case out quite clearly. 60% of graduating high school students will go on to further their education. 40% of those who elect a 2-year associate's degree program will graduate within 2 years. 50 of those who pursue the typical 4-year degree graduate in 4 years. Depending on who you believe, by the spring of 2028, less than 30% of the current 24 graduating class may have a college degree of some form. This is national standards, and it probably varies. Furthermore, a study conducted by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis concluded that nationally, for every man currently in college, there are 2 women. Where are our young men? Why aren't we having this discussion? I have many young men from Painesville City Schools, Mentor City Schools. They come to me, shoes untied, hair unkept, wanting a job, and I look at them, what skills do you have? How have you prepared? And I get a blank stare. Now, the CT students over here, CT students, commend them. Outstanding work. How many engineers did you hear? How many precision machinists? How many HVAC? How many electricians? How many carpenters? You soon all will be paying doctors' wages for your tradespeople. For every 5 retiring tradespeople, 2 are entering the workforce. And we argue about restrooms. Where is our local industry supposed to get their labor from, I ask you? Mentor is qualified as a wealthy district. It's not even listed on the top 25 school districts in Ohio, and our enrollment is in decline. You have to ask, why are not young families flocking to the Mentor area as they once did in the 80s and 90s? A school district's prime function is to serve the community and deliver to it what it needs. Thank you very much.
Jennifer Ladd.
Mr. Heath and board members, thank you for allowing me to practice my First Amendment right to free speech. The reason why I'm here tonight, because I think it's quite laughable Mr. Heath is not only seeking a raise, but a contract renewal as well. Usually merit gets you a raise. You must earn a new contract. What isn't laughable, when Craig Heath declared all a male student has to do to enter the girls' bathroom is say, "I'm a girl today." Magically, a red carpet to our girls' safe spaces shall appear. This was according to the March 2023 school board meeting. You see, Craig, you'd more than earn that raise and renewal if you gained your common sense back. XX equals girls, XY equals boys. There is a reason why archaeologists can tell the difference thousands of years later, yet you base it solely off of delusions and mental illnesses. Does it make sense to allow an already mentally unstable male to use our girls' bathrooms? Nope. Boys are stronger than girls no matter what they do to their bodies. Just ask that tiny little blonde who was beaten up and battered in the cafeteria at the high school, or the two females in Loudoun County, Virginia. That boy also said, "I'm a girl today," and school officials had to appear woke enough, and subsequently 2 girls were savagely beaten and they were raped. Will Mentor become the next Loudoun County? You surely aren't doing your best to prevent that from happening again. Do you honestly think that you deserve that raise and renewal? At our last meeting, a community member sang your praises for taking a calamity day for the solar eclipse, but one can't be used to deplete the libraries of pornographic materials. Yay! Another parent besides me had offered to gift the schools with proper educational materials for the students. I have yet to receive any emails regarding this. It is within your policy, by the way. There is a solution here, but when we have 3 seats being abused by radical leftists, a solution cannot be met. Maggie always says the term all-inclusive, well, just as long as it aligns with her politics. So much for all-inclusive. You can keep boys in their own bathrooms. Don't worry about it, guys. If they don't like it, they can use the nurse's bathroom. You can get rid of these pornographic and pedophilic books, and if you adopt a curriculum that educates, doesn't indoctrinate, then you shall earn that raise and renewal. Until then, you, Craig, you get an F. I do have good news for you, though. You do get an A+ for doing whatever the radicals on this board say. Your super far woke lefters are mighty proud of you. That pension and position as superintendent sure as hell works wonders for completely destroying your moral compass and what parents and community members think of you. Forget about any levies for a long while, too, if we're going to keep abusing those seats to push your leftist cult-like views.
Thank you.
Andrea Bliss.
Good evening. In preparing my remarks for this evening, I looked over the district's mission statement, vision, and slogan. Our mission statement: inspiring students today to reach their potential tomorrow. Our students love Mr. Heath. An acquaintance of mine once said that visiting the schools with Craig was like being with a celebrity. The students all know him and they are happy to see him. Mr. Heath also knows the students, many by name, and he cares about them. This mutual fondness is crucial when it comes to inspiring students. Our vision: ensure a safe learning environment. Mr. Heath has sat with our board, collaborated with local law enforcement, and researched the best ways to keep our students safe, both in day-to-day and in cases of emergency. Provide balanced, high-quality education. Mentor Schools was recently ranked in the top 22% of all districts in Ohio and near the top of the districts in Lake County. This could not have been achieved without Mr. Heath's excellent leadership. Maximize district resources. Mr. Wade has stated on numerous occasions that he and Mr. Heath meet regularly to discuss plans for the district and how to best reach our goals with the resources that we have. This is an ongoing task that Mr. Heath strives to meet. Encourage strong community partnerships. I read an article that was published before the November election, and in that article, Mr. Heath stated that he spends approximately 10 to 15% of each day addressing community concerns. He has stated in past meetings that he receives hundreds of emails a day. He listens to our community and takes the feedback provided by parents, students, and taxpayers into communication when making important decisions. He is passionate about the strategic planning project and very clearly wants to see our district thrive with the help of our community. Our slogan: ABC, adapting, balancing, collaborating. Again, Mr. Heath has shown countless times that he is able to adapt, balance, and collaborate with staff, students, and the community to help us achieve our goals. These meetings have shown us that there are a lot of very different people in our district with many different needs. Mr. Heath gladly listens to the concerns of the community and works to find a balance that will meet the needs of all students and families as much as can be done. He would not be able to find that balance without the ability to adapt and the willingness to collaborate. I think Mr. Heath embodies each of these characteristics and qualities and has more than risen to the challenge of leading our district. What I find most impressive about Mr. Heath is how much he so clearly loves his job. When he has a chance to speak about the individual schools and their achievements, or when he talks about his visit with the students, the smile on his face shows that he is the right person. He is in the right position. He attends student events and greets people warmly. Craig Heath is the best person to lead our district, and I ask that you vote to renew his contract as we are lucky to have him as our superintendent.
Thank you.
Lynn Mazika.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. I understand the renewal of Superintendent Heath is on tonight's school board agenda. And after having attended almost all of the school board meetings since he took office, I can confidently say that he is an asset to our schools and community in so many ways. His aim of providing the best education for each student, recognizing their individual needs, goals, and talents is commendable. Mr. Heath has worked with Mr. Wade to cut costs wherever possible without compromising the quality of their kids' education. He's part of the solution. He's been working with all of the board members to develop a reasonable and equitable way to provide parental control over the books their children are reading from the school library. He interacts with staff and students on a daily basis. He continues to work with Lakeland to provide a varied selection of career and technical education programs. He's worked with the teaching staff and administration to improve test scores and our school's ranking statewide. And all the award-winning students recognized this evening show how impressive our students are under Mr. Heath's guidance. And the award as an Ohio Hall of Fame school earned by Sterling Morton. There's only 7 of those in the state to receive that award. There are many other positive innovations he has accomplished or started. We need not only to renew his contract, but to thank him for his dedicated service to our school system. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the public participation.
Next, we have the superintendent's report and recommendations.
I just have a couple of things coming out of last board meeting that I'll touch on here this evening, since I know we've got a lengthy financial update from Mr. Wade. Not nearly as long as Dr. Glavin, though. Coming out of the April board meeting, we had conversations that impact several different board policies around curricular, supplemental, and media center materials. Rather than trying to talk about these individually over the next few months at our regular board meetings, we're going to discuss the following group of policies and administrative guidelines as part of a board work session on July 3rd at 5:30 p.m. here in Paradigm. The 2520 series that we outlined with several options presented to the board members. 2240, controversial issues. 9130, public complaints. 7230, gifts, grants, and bequests. 2210, curriculum development. 2270, religion in the curriculum. 2131, educational outcome goals. 9700, relations with special interest groups. And then we will also be looking closely at our library collection development procedures and our library media weeding procedures. This will allow us to align the policies that connect to all of the various aspects of the curriculum adoption process, the material selection process, the donation process, challenges, controversial issues, and our procedures for the media centers across all of our schools in the district so that we can develop exactly what we want to do in the district for the 24-25 school year. We are following our weeding guidelines for the media center right now, and we have put a hold on ordering media center books and materials for next year until we get all of this alignment completed and can direct our staff accordingly. The other topic I want to touch on here briefly tonight, and we will continue this conversation, is around student discipline. One item that we discussed last meeting that we will continue to dig into more as we finish off this school year is student discipline. I have a few data points to share with everyone this evening as a starting point, but we'll provide additional comparative data at the June meeting as well. As of Friday, May 10th, here are some of the discipline numbers that I have pulled from our data system. Currently looking just at Mentor High School, Memorial Middle School, and Shore Middle School as a starting point for us. During this school year, we've had major events indicated in our data collection system in regards to student discipline with the following numbers. Major events, just so everybody knows as well, we're talking about things like tobacco, vaping, alcohol offenses, physical aggression, threats, gossip, physical injury, and weapons. Total this year at Mentor High School, we've had 184 major events. At Memorial Middle School, we've had 291. At Shore Middle School, 302. Minor events, which are things like attendance, disruption, disrespect, technology violations. The minor events have totaled at Mentor High School 1,967, at Memorial 726, at Shore 1,122. Again, the majority of those things are revolving around attendance issues, so anytime there are tardies or some truancy pieces, those are indicated as minor events. That's why those totals are so high. In regards to the discipline types, so far this year with the out-of-school suspensions, there have been 179 at Mentor High School, 61 at Memorial Middle School, 59 at Shore Middle School. In-school restrictions, 111 at Mentor High School, 25 at Memorial, 7 at Shore Middle School. Saturday schools, we have 224 at Mentor High School, 7 at Memorial, 27 at Shore. And then detentions. These are anything from after-school office detentions, lunch detentions, morning detentions, afternoon detentions, all told. We have at Mentor High School 969, Memorial is at 361, and Shore is at 374. And again, I'll share all those with our board members here this week. I have some other numbers that we'll dig into a little bit more here in June as well. I promise I will have more of a presentation with Mr. Wade-like charts and graphs at our June meeting.
Happy to help.
And we will include comparison data over the last couple of years along with some more detailed data regarding student discipline. I know that a vast majority of the incidents reported are done by a small percentage of the students. For example, 523 of the incidents at the high school are associated with 20 students. That means 523 incidents are being attributed to less than 1% of the student population in the high school. What we need to do with this data is identify what needs those students have that are not being met. Are they in the wrong academic program? Are there underlying factors that need addressed? Does the student just not work well in a large comprehensive high school setting? Would an alternative setting or online platform work better for that student? Whatever it is, we need to develop the program of studies that will best meet their needs or find an environment that will provide the supports to help them succeed. Again, I look forward to digging into this data a little bit more as we finish the school year, and I will provide updates for everyone in June.
Mr. Heath.
Yes.
Thank you for this information. That's very helpful for us to move forward. As you're looking at this, you mentioned major events, and that was, I can see why they're considered major. They seem very different from each other throughout that category. Do you have the breakdown? Maybe not now, but could could you get a breakdown of the major events as
Yeah,
well?
we have those things broken down
Okay.
as well. We pulled some of that here this afternoon, just making sure we verify those numbers before we give them. But we will have those for you here soon.
Can we get information from, let's see, maybe 7 years back? Because COVID has a sort of an aberration in the way, because kids were in school in a
They weren't in the
different
building.
pattern. Yeah, so that data may not be as reliable, so it could be included, but understandably comparing it in a different way. But if we could go back so that we could maybe see a trend, are we looking at something that's level or increasing or decreasing?
And that's why
Whatever.
we want to make sure that we can pull some comparison data just to know where we sit compared to where we were previously. We'll see what we can pull and how far back that's going to go. We did transition to a new data system here this year, but we'll dig through some of that and see what we can find.
Mr. Heath, also, you had mentioned, looking into different types of supports for the students, but I'd also like to see what type of discipline some of those repeat offenders have already had, because at some point, there is a point that we need to get to where if you're, in that situation where you're repeating that behavior and we've warned you so many times, I do think that might need to be looked at.
Yeah, I have a question. I just want to make sure I wrote it down right. So the major events, Shore had 302, but they had the least amount of out-of-school suspensions or in-school suspensions?
Correct. That's why this will be an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, okay.
I'll just finish off with one quick story as well. I had a 6th grade student that reached out to me through email and wanted to sit down and talk. Happened to be a student that I had met last year when she was a 5th grader. And she's had a tough transition to the middle school this year. And she wanted to talk through some of the experiences that she's had. We talked a lot about discipline, and it was interesting to hear her perspective coming from a 6th grade mind. One of the things that she said was, we're not tough enough from a discipline standpoint. And then like 2 minutes later, she said, but it really doesn't matter because those kids get suspended and come back and the behavior doesn't change. And that's the struggle, and that's what we need to resolve. Do we need to be tougher in our discipline? I first glance at the numbers, yeah, we do. But what are the other factors that we need to incorporate into this as well? And that's going to be an important distinction for us to make. The one thing I will share with you coming out of that meeting, and I shared this not only with that 6th grade student, but with her parents as well, reached out to the principal immediately and said, hey, I want to kind of get together here and start talking through some solutions. That's going to incorporate both our middle school principals, our high school principal as well, and just start digging into some of this data to figure out what's going on. Again, I think we're talking about small percentages of students that are causing the majority of the issues. So what do we do with them? What can we do to support them, number one? But at the same time, is sitting at Shore Middle School, is sitting at Memorial Middle School, is sitting at Mentor High School the right spot for them? Maybe not. And there are different ideas that I've been a part of in other districts that I think we might be able to take a look at and see if there's something that we can develop to continue the education of those students, because that's very important. But make sure that we're not doing it at the detriment of the other students that are in those classes. So that's going to be a pretty big conversation that we're going to have here starting in June. Again, I'll make sure and break down the data a little bit further. I will get into the discipline consequences a little bit more as well. I've given you just some high overview things here today. The nice thing about this new data system is you can dig pretty deep in some of this. I kind of got into the weeds a little bit here over the last few days, just as we've been looking at some of this. And again, you know from my past experience, I was data and assessment for many years at a couple of big districts down in the central Ohio area, and I love looking at data. So it'll be good to kind of sort through some of this, really analyze it closely, and then start brainstorming some ideas. I think one of the things that we can do with this as well is bring this to our school safety committee as well. Start talking through some of those ideas and seeing what's resonating with our group moving forward, in addition to some of the other school safety pieces that we just met about here recently as well. We won't get into that tonight, but I think there's some good things here starting right now that we can build off of and figure out, okay, why does that not make sense? Ms. Iapolo, exactly what I looked at. 302 major events at Shore, 59 out-of-school suspensions. What's the difference there? So we'll be taking a close look at some of those.
Mr. Heath, would you be able, and it sounds like you already plan to, but I'd like to see the major events kind of split out regarding, violence, threats of violence, as opposed to tobacco, vaping, alcohol offenses. I think that'd be important to do.
Yeah, and they get into specific discipline codes, and we've got them all broken down by those codes, so that'll be an easy set of numbers to pull.
Thank you.
All right. Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade, I have the following recommendations listed under the consent agenda and recommend approval of items 7A1 through 7A3.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Oh, can we have discussion?
sorry.
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
The Mentor Schools Foundation, the high school science teacher, Leslie, she's the high school fishing club advisor. So it didn't say it there. Normally it says, she's the fishing club advisor. So I didn't know if that $1,700 is going to her for some other reason, or is it going to her for the fishing club?
It's going to the fishing club.
Okay, that's what I figured. It didn't say it like it normally does, so I wanted to verify. That's all.
Any more discussion? All right, Mr. Wade, please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion's carried 5-0.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade, I'm recommending approval of the AT&T Universal Extension Amendment.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade, I'm recommending approval of the Class Kick renewal subscription.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade, I'm recommending approval of the HPC Medicaid School Program Service Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade, I'm recommending approval of the rental agreement with the City of Mentor.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Wade, I'm recommending approval of agenda item C1 related to certified personnel and C2 through C5, all related to human resource matters.
Do I have a
So
mo-
moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Oh, any discussion? Sorry.
Is that Ms. Marchaza who seconded?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion's carried 5-0.
I'm also recommending approval of Agenda Item D related to administrative staff.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
I'm also recommending approval of Agenda Item E related to exempt staff benefits.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Is that you, Ms. Iapolo, who motioned?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And finally, I'm recommending approval of Agenda Item F related to administrative staff benefits.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
This concludes my portion of tonight's agenda. Thank you.
Next, we have the Board of Education report and recommendations. And the first item under board business is the second reading and approval of the Mentor Board of Education Neola policies.
So moved.
A second? I'll second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
The second item under board business is the reappointment of Craig Heath as the superintendent and the authorization of an employment contract.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
I do have discussion. What exactly are we voting on? Because there's no contract here in the system. Nothing was uploaded for us to review, so if we say yes to a contract, it's not in there for us to review.
The contract was in our board docs, was in our,
It's not under executive content. So if you log in right now, it's not there. So I'm just wondering, how is everybody going to vote on something that we haven't looked at yet?
We looked at it at the meeting.
We didn't see a contract, a final contract. Did you, Maggie?
I have seen the final contract and I forwarded it to Mr. Heath to have uploaded.
Yeah, I
So
haven't seen one yet. Have you?
Because we looked at it at the meeting that we had during in the discussion. That might have been the one that you were on vacation.
We never saw a
Either way,
contract
the
from our
contract
attorney.
is not, the final contract, which we should be voting on, is not in
Yeah,
here for
no,
us to
I
review.
feel like we should read it. I'd like to motion to recess so that we can take a
I would
chance
like a
at
longer
looking at
time to review a contract that's like 6 pages long and really important, especially given what we've heard from the community. I think that I don't want to just recess and look over it. I might have questions, additional questions for our attorney, or there's a lot of legal jargon that needs to be combed through. So I don't feel like a recess in the middle of a meeting is appropriate. I think I'd like to motion to actually postpone to a future regular meeting.
We could have an executive session.
Yeah, we could do that.
I'll second that. Like I said, with this whole process, I'm being the freshman. I want to make sure I have time to look through that.
Certainly.
I'm not used to
yeah.
reading through legal jargon.
We could go into executive session
Comfortable with
and
that.
do that. I'm sorry that you didn't receive it and that you didn't say anything before this
It wasn't
time.
just me, though. Nobody else received it. So I'm wondering, how are you going to vote on something that you haven't seen yet?
I did see it, though.
You saw the final one, so Maggie sent you the final one? Because we did change
We
some of
looked
the
at the hard
information.
copy.
That was changed, though, from executive session. You were going back to the attorney to finalize everything, and we never saw the final review
No, nothing has
Final contract.
nothing has changed
from that contract.
from that contract, no.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't get a
Executive
contract.
session to look it over.
No, I would like more time than just the night of the meeting.
I mean, I think that we did talk about the terms at length, and, I mean, I don't know that I would need an entire month to review what we've already agreed to. You know what I mean? So having an executive session, I think we'd have the chance to confirm, does this reflect what we discussed and agreed to. So for me, executive session is acceptable.
What do you mean, what, like, for when? For, like, to come up with a time, a day? Or are you talking about going into executive
I mean,
session right now?
today
Going
or-
into
yeah.
executive session.
I would like more time for that. I'm a little bit concerned that, I mean, that's a big deal. We should have had it within 3 days. I think that's what our bylaws are. And I don't want to feel, I'm not sure what the rush is. I'm a little concerned that we were ready to vote on something we didn't see from our attorney. I mean, it's a liability.
I looked at the contract. We had it on the table with us.
No, not from Eric, no, we didn't. Not a final draft.
What was the draft that we looked at?
That was the contract.
I didn't look at any contract. I mean, the contract, his current contract is 6 pages long. I did not receive anything that was 6 pages long during that executive session. And either way, it's not, I mean, it's not in
I just
in
don't
the system.
understand why you waited until today when
Well,
you
why
knew
would you
that
vote
this
on
was
something?
happening.
I could ask you the same thing. Why would you vote on something that is not even in the agenda? What if the contract says he gets $500,000 in 15 years?
Well,
That's-
I
She has seen
received
it,
the
yeah.
contract. and
But it's not in
I
here to
read
vote
it
on.
and I sent it for them to upload, so I don't have that issue. And the fact that you knew that we were voting and never asked to see the contract until this moment, to me, is disingenuous.
That's okay. I understand where you're coming from, but I looked at it last night, and our bylaws says 3 days. And this isn't the first time this has happened, actually. Last year, when we were reviewing Craig with his contract, I was the only board member who 5 minutes before the meeting said, hey, there's no contract in there for us to vote on. And I had asked Bill to upload it, and he did. So this is the second time it's happened. I feel like we need to do our job and realize there's no contract in there. You're the board president. You sent it to him. I could say the same thing about you. So
Well, I certainly want everyone to read it, and we've talked about the terms at length. We've had 3 meetings now about this, and we spoke about it for several hours, and I believe that we were all feeling very comfortable with where we were going. So I understand we definitely want you to have the opportunity to read it, and we will get that to you.
Can we have an executive session to do that?
well, I think we have a motion right now because I motioned, she seconded. So I think we have to vote on the postponing part of it, I believe.
And I also motioned for a recess.
Oh, right.
So
I think that was on the table
Well, a
first,
recess,
yeah.
though, wouldn't be an executive, you'd have to motion, I think, for an executive session, right? Like, we can't just go.
I motioned for a recess for you to be able to review it on the spot, and I understand if that's not enough time, that's fine. We can vote off that, but that is the motion on the table, so.
So we need to vote on the motion to postpone first, is that right? Or do you want to, are you withdrawing the recess?
Oh, I can withdraw the
Okay.
recess, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the table to postpone the vote, and do you have a date in mind, or is this indefinitely, or?
I don't know. I just know that with our work session, it was kind of hard to find a date, but I don't know if we want to wait till June, unless everyone wants to look at things, but I know that was difficult to find our work session, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think with a contract, we should do it at a regular meeting.
So we also have the other option to go into executive session so that we're not postponing for so long, because as you know, our work session, we were looking at June, so, or July, actually. July.
I would prefer not to vote on, I mean, I will not. I don't want to review something tonight that we could have additional questions, need to talk to our attorney. You know, there could be additional questions that arise from looking at the contract, because I never saw it during the executive session. I just took, your word for what was being said, which is
Sure,
fine, but I
sure.
assumed we would have something to review.
Well, we can look at it in executive session, and if you didn't feel comfortable, we could, when we come out of executive session, we could do that.
I would like to postpone till. a
Yeah, because
regular meeting.
I don't want to feel that
I want to do it on
pressure.
my own, like, I don't want the whole board, I want to look it over myself, and, come up with what I have questions on, if there are any.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to postpone. And we have, who motioned to postpone?
Ms. Payne?
Ms. Payne did, and in a second, could you call the roll?
Ms. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo?
Yes.
Ms. Jessling?
No.
Ms. Marchaza?
No.
Ms. Cook?
No.
Motion to postpone fails 3-2. Or 2-3, excuse me.
Now we have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
What are we going in executive session for?
Executive session to discuss the employment of a public official.
You made that motion, Mrs. Cook.
I did.
Ms. Jessling, you,
Seconded. I'm sorry.
I seconded. I think Ginny made the motion.
I mean-
seconded.
You suggested we do that. I made the first motion.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Okay.
We have discussion.
Yeah, it's a motion that can be discussed.
Okay, I just want to say, in the spirit of not wasting time, I'm not comfortable going into executive session and having to page through something. I'm a first timer. I want to give it the attention it deserves. And again, quite frankly, every one of us should be picking it apart. It's, it's a big deal, and I think that it deserves the time. So if that means anything, we can go into it, but
I echo what Rose said.
Any more discussion?
No.
Please call the roll.
I do have a question. If there's a 3-2 vote on executive session, what is the outcome of that? We have to go into executive session? We just don't want to waste time, so.
I don't think it's wasting time. It's something that you feel you'd like to review, and I respect that.
But I'm telling you, you're hearing it from me and from Rose, that we don't feel comfortable having everybody, we want to look over it ourselves, which we should be given that time per our policy. It says 3 days before, so. So we can go into executive session, but that doesn't mean we're going to change our position on that. So we don't want to waste time. Or
I don't consider it a waste of time.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling?
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza?
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo?
no.
Ms. Payne?
no.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
We are dismissing to executive session at 8:54 PM.
We also need to discuss then, right, that if there's going to be a vote after executive session, like,
We have the whole rest of the agenda.
right, so don't we have to announce, I thought we had to announce it now.
No,
We'll be back after the.
so we have to finish the meeting.
Quick.
It's now 9:37. We are back from executive session.
Okay. Thank you for everyone's patience. We definitely want to give this important issue due diligence. On further investigation, we noticed that the contract was in fact posted to Board Docs. It was posted in a different place that it is normally posted. There are two ways to pull up Board Docs, and one, if you were to pull up in a PDF version, you would have seen the draft, the proposed contract that we're voting on tonight, that we have on our agenda tonight for Mr. Heath's contract. It was not also in the area that our public typically sees the contract. With that in mind, we are comfortable at this point postponing the vote so that everyone has diligence.
Do we want a motion, second that, and vote, so we table it till the date?
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
move to table the vote on our superintendent's contract pending our work session.
So we're postponing until?
The 31st?
Yes, the 31st, May 31st at 4:30. Second?
Who was that?
Mrs. Apple.
Ms. Apple.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Let's see. Next, we have the legislative report. Ms. Marchaza.
Thank you, Madam President. Lots has been going on at the State House. The Ohio Department of Education Workforce had a meeting. They have a few more sessions before they recess for the summer. I'm going to spend more time, however, on legislation because lots has been moving. House Bill 250, which was previously known as the Military Enlistment SEAL Bill, has changed due to Senator Andrew Brenner, the former chair of the Senate Education Committee, or excuse me, current chair. He proposed adding some amendments to this bill, including requiring each public school to adopt a policy governing the use of cell phones by students during school hours, and requiring that districts make their cell phone policy publicly available and on their website. I believe we're already in compliance with this, as Mr. Heath told me earlier today, so this wouldn't impact us too terribly much. However, that's important for us to know about. School districts who don't have a policy on the books will have until July 1st of next year to adopt a policy at a public board meeting. House Bill 407 is the voucher transparency bill. This one's it's not really impacting us, but it's just important to know about. This would create reporting requirements for chartered non-public schools. Other updates, although this legislation has already passed and moved through, House Bill 68, which would require schools, state institutions of higher ed, and private colleges to designate separate single-sex teams and sports for each sex. There's a temporary order in place by a judge in Franklin County regarding its implementation. This one has been extended indefinitely, and really this one's just going to play out in the courts, so we have to just pay attention and wait for our legal counsel's advice on this one. It's going to take some time, it sounds like. House Bill 183, this one says that schools must designate restrooms, locker rooms, changing rooms, and shower rooms, quote, for the exclusive use of a single sex, end quote, with sex defined as what is listed on a person's birth certificate. This passed the House committee and will now need to be voted on by the House. However, this one's in direct conflict with the federal Title IX guidelines. So this means it could be eventually making its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Again, something that's going to play out in the courts, and we're likely going to play out in the courts, and we'll need to stay in touch with our legal counsel if and when this one's signed into law. House Bill 8, this one would require schools to notify parents about the use of, quote, sexuality content, end quote, in class, and require, quote, pre-consent, end quote, of parents for any mental, physical, or behavioral health care services. This one was introduced actually in the fall of last year. It's already passed the House. There have been some changes to this bill as it's gone through the Senate committee. This was going to be voted on, but that actually didn't happen. So right now it's just sitting in that committee, though there have been changes made to it.
Lots of new legislation's been introduced, more than 21 new bills by my count, but honestly, probably more. House Bill 485, not all of them are going to directly impact us, but a couple might. House Bill 485 would require each public school to adopt an internet safety policy. I think we already have something very similar to this. Lots of other bills. Another House Bill 520 would permit students to use club sports or other athletic activities to fulfill high school physical education requirements. There's another Senate Bill 259. This one's to do with participation in interscholastic athletics. So lots of bills moving as usual. There have been some changes in the committees. The changes in the House committees specifically, Speaker Jason Stevens recently made changes to the leadership of several House committees, and namely where this impacts us is Representative Adam Byrd was replaced. He's on the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee. He was replaced by Gail Manning, and committee leaders tend to have different priorities, so we might see some changes as Representative Manning takes over. The Senate Education Committee met on May 7th. They did a few things. They amended Senate Bill 208, which has to do with the enrollment policies for military children. They also heard proponent testimony on Senate Bill 219, which would change the licensure grade bands that educators are licensed to teach in. And then House Bill 147, that also had a hearing with no witnesses present to testify, and that one has to do with teacher licensure revocation. Finally, the Joint Committee on Property Tax Review and Reform, they're still moving along, doing their work, and they met in April and also in early May. In April, they met and heard testimony focusing on property taxes from the perspective of local government entities. So that includes the Ohio Townships Association, the County Commissioners Association, the Ohio Municipal League, and the Ohio Mayor's Alliance. So just hearing from them. And then in May, they heard from Dr. Howard Fleeter with the Ohio Education Policy Institute, he testified about property taxes and school funding in Ohio, with particular attention to the impact of House Bill 920 from back in 1976 and how it's, according to his testimony, how it unsustainably forces public schools to rely really heavily on levies for funding, which I think Mr. Wade is well aware of. And then House Bill 920 is the primary reason that Ohio relies so heavily on those local levies, and in fact, more than any other state. So that's about it. Lots going on.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the Student Achievement Report. Mrs. Jessling.
Thank you. A good education means providing many opportunities for students to explore, solve problems, and meet challenges, and most of these occur in the classroom, but Mentor also offers many activities to support the development of well-rounded, successful students ready for their futures. Here is a spring sampling. This delightful masterwork was a group effort from the 7 Mentor elementary schools, Sterling Morton, Fairfax, Hopkins, Bellflower, Lake, Orchard Hollow, and Ridge. Each art teacher worked with students to create the beautiful oversized painting. They collaborated throughout the year to make the larger-than-life wooden 4x8 postcard sending greetings from Mentor. Each elementary school painted one of the letters, and one school designed the background. What a great way to celebrate community pride and showcase our students' talent. On April 10th, Mentor High School seniors who had already earned the distinction of AP Scholar were celebrated. Many have also merited a capstone diploma even before their hard work and achievements for their senior year are tallied. 64 exceptional students were honored at the breakfast with their families. Memorial students have been producing an excellent school newspaper called Memorial Rights. They have enjoyed producing an array of content, including topical articles, interviews, letters to the editor, reviews, sports news, surveys, and graphs. Advisor Mrs. Wagoner meets with the 6th through 8th grade staff twice a month. In a little retro fun, the paper is produced in hard copy for school distribution. Shores Newspaper Club produces the Cardinal Journal. With a staff of 9 students, they usually publish once a month. The paper is mostly student-led, as Ms. Ashley is their advisor. The staff comes up with the information that they want to include. Their digital format is in Canva, which lets them embed short videos, including interviews with staff and students. Student surveys on fun topics are a popular feature. The 2024 Military Commitment Ceremony on May 4th was a wonderful moment to celebrate the selfless commitment of 8 of our graduating seniors. To the United States Army, Ray Jones, Simon Summerfield, and Gavin Willits. To the United States Marine Corps, Joe Cantor and Deanna Harville. To the United States Air Force, Lexi Huntington and Lydia Smith. And to the United States Military Academy at West Point, Lorelei Meggery. We thank them for their courage and dedication to our nation's safety. For the 98th time, Mentor High has honored students with an induction ceremony into the National Honor Society. The Mentor chapter began in 1927. The candles were lit and the inductees took the pledge upholding the pillars of the organization: scholarship, leadership, service, and character. The first page of the book they signed listed the signatures from the May 1944 ceremony. The AWT RoboBots competition is an exciting day-long contest. Each school partners with an industry advisor to build their 15-pound combat robot. Mentor's generous sponsor is Libra Industries. Congratulations to our Mentor High robotics team. On April 27th, after a series of fierce battles, they took second place out of 17 high schools in the double elimination contest at the annual showdown. They'll be heading to Pittsburgh for their next battle. Heartfelt thanks to all the community members and especially the students who played a crucial role in focus groups on our recent planning day with the Learner-Centered Collaborative. Through engaging discussions and brainstorming sessions, students contributed ideas on curriculum development, extracurricular activities, and instructional initiatives. This feedback will be incorporated into our new strategic plan to ensure that it reflects the needs and aspirations of our entire school community. It was a great team effort. Mr. Capel and our CTE construction students created the raised beds they needed for the planting in the new Mentor High garden. Mr. Kaminsky, Mrs. Wilcox, and a team of students were then able to plant cold crops. It was a great experience for our Cardinal Works team to learn about companion gardening, and they're looking forward to harvesting in just a couple of weeks. Since last June, the monthly Mentor Schools Food Market has met an important need in our community and has given our students a chance to get involved as well. So far, the market has served over 100,000 pounds of fresh produce spread out over 2,300 households, helping nearly 3,000 children and 2,400 adults, including more than 1,600 senior citizens. It has offered another avenue for students to participate in caring for and about others. During the fourth quarter, Mentor football has had a fantastic 9-week competition among 8 teams of athletes that includes grades, community service, and attendance at school events. The aim is to positively represent Mentor football and to support our world to make it a better place. Community service activities can be done individually, but at least one must be a group project that includes the majority of the team's members working together. These outreach projects have included cleaning the beach, volunteering at the senior center, park cleanups, etc. Each event and service activity earns 1 point. It was a beautiful morning for Shores Be the Change Club to help Hearts to Hands distribute its 8,000 pounds of food to feed 386 people. On April 10th, Mentor High students presented the Stick Together program at Bellflower Elementary. Stick Together was created by Project Love and Duct Tape to help prevent bullying. The students have presented it to all of Mentor's 5th graders. The message is staying strong and being there for each other starts with kindness. It was a great day for music at Memorial on April 13th. The OMEA solo and ensemble event brought students from across Lake Geauga and Cuyahoga counties. They were filled with nervous excitement as they performed and awaited their ratings. Any adult can imagine how much poise and courage it takes for a young musician to do a solo vocal or instrumental performance before a judge. What terrific life skills. Mentor Theater's successful 100th season wrapped with the production of Sweeney Todd. The actors, the chorus, and orchestra gave the audience a riveting theatrical experience. Mr. Green was honored for his 20 years as program director. The group is looking forward to its next season, which includes the hilarious musical 9 to 5. It's always a privilege to honor the Alumni Hall of Fame inductees. Mentor's Wonderful Alumni Association hosted the special dinner on April 25th to celebrate each of the 6 honored for 2024. They represented classes from 1967 to 2006. It was impressive to see the way their lives were launched through their years attending Mentor Public Schools. It was also fascinating to note that the size of the high school, with so many opportunities being available, opened up ideas and experiences to help each one find their pathway. Along with connections made with teachers, coaches, and advisors, it was clear how much the guidance and inspiration from key staff members helped them succeed. Memorial and Shore's 8th grade students traveled to Washington, D.C. and Gettysburg this month. During their adventure, they visited many famous monuments, incredible Smithsonian museums, and awe-inspiring memorials. The trip is an opportunity for our students to see the places they've been learning about and to enjoy their peers' company before transitioning to high school. Spring brings the promise of more great concert music. The Mentor High School Orchestra presented a rich program of beautiful selections as the culmination of their year of work together. You can enjoy the music again for this and many of our concerts through the recordings on our YouTube channel, Cardinal TV, Mentor, Ohio. The Mentor CTE and Rotary Awards were presented at a special luncheon on May 11th. Nick Blackburn and Addison Lyles received Mentor Rotary scholarships, and the Rotary Community Award was given to Cameron Saboro. The top seniors in our Lakeshore Compact programs included Ben Malbasa, Donia Saperstein, Adriana Seck, Evan Lindick, Brady Zunick, Addison Neese, Merle Galvin, Kelsey Brown, Alicia Taft, Zoe Kofer, Kendra Prezella, Robert Pruitt, Austin Telema, Noah Grumbach, Rowan Garding-Smith, Audriana Reed, Emily Burns, Mackenzie Harsh, and Dominic Pandolfi. An exciting, even thrilling development has come for our Career Tech Auto Service Technology students. They can't wait to work on this brand new Mustang GT, generously donated by the Ford Motor Company to our program. This will familiarize them with servicing the brand new high-tech components in a high-performance car. The Bellflower Elementary Group hosted the Electric Energy Art Show on May 7th as a special evening event for their families. A related art showcase at Lake Elementary made for a great hands-on evening open house for parents and students to enjoy together. It was a spectacular district-wide celebrating fine art with students from the 7 elementary schools here at Paradigm on April 23rd. Hundreds of parents and students arrived to enjoy the bounty of creativity. The show even included a blacklight area where students' work glowed in neon colors. In tandem with the K-5 show, Mentor High's art department shared their celebration of the senior portfolio work in a themed pop-up event called Total Eclipse of the Heart at the Fine Arts Center. The exhibition included work from advanced placement, ceramics, digital art, digital photography, drawing, metalsmithing, and printmaking classes using multiple platforms. This year's art students earned a total of over $1.2 million in scholarships. April 24th's Jazz Festival showcased the jazz bands of Mentor High, Shore Middle, and Memorial Middle School. They played a smooth program of cool classics sprinkled with solos. April 26th completed the 34th season for Shore Middle School's show choir, Shoreline Singers. Their delightful concert's theme was friendship and was a hit with the audience at the Fine Arts Center. Beautiful harmonies and stylish choreography were featured in the Top 25 Big Spring Show featuring Hollywood hits. The audience offered enthusiastic applause as Mentor High's show choir continued its long tradition of great entertainment that started with founder Ted Hieronymus in the 1960s. Mentor High School artists took the top spot for the 4th consecutive year in the Lake Tran Design a Bus Wrap contest. Area students were encouraged to develop a design showcasing the theme, Building a Greener Lake County, or Lake Tran's 50th anniversary. Congratulations to first place winner Haley Ambrose and second place winner Evan Bordelon. Haley's design will be displayed on one of Lake Tran's Dial-A-Ride buses for the coming year, and on the right are the previous 3 years of winners. And I saw one of them actually riding one today. It was a splendid show of wearable art at Memorial last week. So many students were represented in the pop-up galleries in the media center, hallway, and art rooms. A great turnout filled the building with an enthusiastic audience. If you missed the chance to enjoy the many art shows over the past month, it's not too late. Shore's Spring Show is coming up on Thursday evening this week at 6 p.m. Shore Art is My Jam will celebrate all the art students in grades 6 through 8, as each will have work on display. And in addition, there will be students playing music, work from Project Lead the Way, and light snacks from the Family and Consumer Science Department. For many years, the annual Shore Show has been a huge event that brings the community together. On May 3rd, our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students from Shore and Memorial had a chance to explore assorted career paths. Over 20 professionals generously shared insights into their occupations. Among them was a Mentor graduate who is now employed at NASA. From healthcare to construction, manufacturing to entrepreneurship, this event was an excellent starting point that lets them talk with professionals in various fields. Our Career Speaker Series is yet another example of our outstanding community support. Finally, Mentor High School held its first ever Senior Activity Day to celebrate the class of 2024. In the morning, seniors attended a picnic and party on the soccer and lacrosse field, followed by clap-outs at the students' middle and elementary schools. It was a wonderful day for our seniors and a great way to tie in our elementary and middle schools to their well-deserved Cardinal pride. Our class of 2024 is ready to fly and will be graduating on Sunday, June 2nd at the Wolstein Center. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. And I noticed most of those pictures are your own because you are attending all of these events, and thank you.
I feel like a roving reporter.
Now it is the moment everyone is waiting for. The Chief Financial Officer's report and recommendation.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Heath, we are required by law to file a May forecast. So we will present that here tonight, potentially. So if we look back at where we were at in November, after this was presented after the permanent improvement levy failed and the emergency levy passed. We were looking, if you look at the ending cash balance with levies, we were at about a $3.6 million cash balance at the end of 2028. Kind of looking at where we're at today, finalizing 10 of 12 months. Our fiscal year again ends in June, so this is through April. Our current year-to-date revenue collections are projecting to be about $765,000 less than we projected. So we are actually going to be collecting less revenue than we projected in November, and that is all because the collection on delinquencies was down. Not that our delinquencies are up, but our collection of previous delinquencies wasn't trending as it has in the past. Our current date expenditures indicate that we're underspending our budget by about $1.8 million. So the net impact is we're going to look at about $1 million more in cash at the end of the fiscal year than we were projecting. So if we look at the overall summary, kind of big picture, simplified financial statement for the board and the community of the May update, I always draw people's attention to the ending cash balance of the last year. That has increased now to almost $8 million. So we have been working, Mr. Heath and his team diligently to reduce spending post-levy failure. as well as making significant cuts in not only spending for this year, but into the future to adjust so that we could flatten our expense curve so that we could stretch our levy as far as possible based on some of the recommendations that we had made to you in November. And again, I use the word "we" because I'm just the one presenting, but this truly is a collaborative document between Mr. Heath, his team, and my office. So when we look at general fund revenues, you can see that the majority of our revenue, 73.4%, comes from local sources. We get about 23% from state sources in the form of our state foundation and refunds on property tax reimbursements. And again, in the general fund, we get very little federal funding, but we get about $8 to $9 million in federal funding that's outside the general fund. I always like to mention that because it's been a topic it's been brought up a number of times. So when you look at our revenue, you can see that it remains relatively flat. We did project, as I shared in November, a 30% increase in property valuations because this is a reevaluation year, which we would see a half collection in 25, and that full collection would occur in 26. So that's why you see about an $80.5 million to $82.5 million increase, because we're expecting it to be right around a little over $2 million when it's all said and done, which equates to about a 2.3% increase in revenue. And if you remember from my March meeting, I wouldn't compare that to the windfall of some of the other local municipalities that we've seen going on. I did also include in 24 an increase in revenue for commercial properties of 20%. We estimate about $8 million a year in new construction growth that relates to our historical values. And then in 27, when we will have another reevaluation, we did see those, I did assume those to be more into trends that we've seen. So increases in property valuation closer to 10% and about 1% for commercial. Because that's just an update year. So usually in our update years for commercial, we don't see much of a move, and sometimes we actually see a negative decline. So, you know, we are projecting those increases that people are going to see in property valuation. But again, you know, that big reminder, we aren't going to see a 30% increase in your tax bill because of House Bill 920, because we're not on the 20 mil floor, which includes our outside voted millage as well as our inside millage. So we will only see a minor increase based on the inside millage, which is about $50 per $100,000 in valuation. So the average homeowner, because of the 30% valuation, is going to see about $150 increase per year in taxes, just for the school standpoint. So again, that's just another graph that kind of shows that kind of that flat line that we're expecting. I did assume in our state foundation funding that we would continue with the implementation of the Fair School Funding Program. So that really, if as a reminder, only goes through 25, because in 26 and 27 we would have a new biennium budget. So as things change, that could have an impact on what we're assuming in our state funding policy there as well. And again, just showing, I think if you're like me and you're a visual learner, you like to see the graphs, not because you know what they mean, but I think graphs often show the general community if there's any crazy assumptions that are made. You can see if there's any specific color in the, in our bar chart that seems to be, exceptionally smaller or larger, it would stand out. And that would be a trigger for the board of the community to go, Mr. Wade, what does that mean? Why are we seeing that? Why are you projecting that? And as you can see from this graph, from a revenue standpoint, our assumptions, I think, are pretty realistic and in line with in the past experience that we've seen. And I think it shows that we're making fair assumptions moving forward. So what we also do then, based on the fact that we've seen 10 months, back in November, we're only a couple months into the fiscal year. Now that we're 10 months through, we have a pretty good idea. We've collected most of our revenue. So we have a pretty good idea where the actual revenue is going to be for the year. So that allows us to adjust our out years accordingly. So what you see on here is a graph that a chart that shows the variances from November to May. So anywhere where you see red is where you'd see a decrease based on our assumptions from the forecast. And again, I'll point out the one of $799,000 in general property tax, and that's because our delinquencies were down. So, we had to make that adjustment shows up now because that's where we're trending and where we're collecting. We've collected all of our property tax for the fiscal year. We're not going to be getting any more. And you can see some other areas, and again, for all of us in this room, $61,000, $307,000 seems like a lot, but when you're looking at $110 million, those aren't material changes. So they don't have a huge impact on where we're at. And our revenues staying pretty constant to where we thought we were. Those are just updates typically because of where we're seeing what we're trending right now currently. Because we're in the business of educating kids, our district educated enrollment is important for us. You can see that we have seen a declining enrollment since post-COVID. We're starting to see that to flatten out, and we're actually going to see a small uptick as we're projecting based on the live birth rates going forward. So the projections that you see are based on our live birth rates for those years and when the kids would come back into kindergarten. And we're still seeing a pretty close to traditional enrollment of kindergartners based on the live birth rate. We were down a little bit last year, closer to 95%, where our typical ratio of kids to coming to school is closer to 98%. So we'll continue to monitor that and update the board as we go through. But again, one of the pieces that Mr. Heath and I talk about that we like with the system that we have is we have kind of ongoing live data that's changing on a regular basis, and we won't have a need to do an enrollment study in the near future because we feel this data is pretty reliable. But obviously, when you're in educating, the business of education, most of your costs are going to go back to salary and benefits, which, as we talked about in Citizens Financial Advisory, is probably true of most industries. So what you see is that about 81% of our budget goes back to salary and benefits. So obviously, the assumptions that we make there are very, very important, and that's why student enrollment and keeping in pace with that is important, because as you see a declining enrollment and then you see a flatlining of that enrollment, you want to make sure that you've adjusted your staff accordingly to make sure that you're not overstaffed, but you don't want to be too understaffed where you have large class sizes, because obviously that would impact our educational environment. And those are things that I know Mr. Heath and his team keep a very close eye on, and we talk quite a bit about to make sure that we're maximizing the educational potential for the students. You can see the other major portion of our, almost 10% of our budget goes back to purchase services, and those are services that we purchase, again, to support either the education of students or the running of the district. And then you'll see our transfer outs back to normal, that little red square. You've seen it in the past where it's been a lot bigger, and it's even surpassed the purchase services, but now that we're not making transfers out, because of the levy failure and making some tough decisions, which we'll get to in a second, that's been shrunk quite a bit. And again, that graph kind of shows to the board and the community, last point I'll make on this, is that there's nothing really there that seems to be out of the ordinary, right? You can see that the assumptions that we're making are reasonable increases based on negotiated agreements, staffing, so on and so forth, and I'll get into a little more detail there. But again, I just pointed out that there's no one color that really has a drastic change that would be alarming for you. Again, that would be a key indicator to the community and the board to say, why, if the blue line went up by 30% and it was really big in 1 year, why did you do that? What happened there? Again, we saw a decrease in our year-over-year spend this past year. It went down about 8.21%. Again, that's because we didn't make a large transfer out, one, first and foremost, and two, because of the changes in our, what's the word I'm looking for? Staffing, thank you. You looked at me and I knew exactly what you were thinking. So looking at the staffing, some of those changes we made because of the retirement incentive and kind of continue to right-size staffing in comparison to our enrollment, we saw a decrease in, I think the thing that's key here, and this is a testament to the work that Mr. Heath and his team has done to prepare for the budget for next year, as you see a very small growth going into fiscal year 25. I mean, a 1% growth when inflation's closer to 3%. I mean, we're going lower than inflation with guaranteed salary increases that we have because of the collective bargaining agreement. Shows that the superintendent and I are working together, and he's working with his team to really control costs. And then you see that we have a pretty steady growth in the out years based on assumptions that we make that I'll describe here in a second. So when we look at kind of the areas, again, this slide's probably the most important, right? Because if 81% of our budget is based on salary and benefits, it's important that we have a good idea of how we're making those assumptions. I think the first thing is in the upper left corner, we are projecting that we're going down 2 certified staff members to 1 classified staff member, or support staff, for those who aren't familiar with what classified is. And our certified staff is our educators and our teachers. Going into next year, as we continue to right-size, some is a little bit continued decrease in enrollment that we've seen. It also assumes that next year that everybody would receive the 2.75% increase, which is in the collective bargaining agreements that we have for our bargaining units for our support staff and our teachers. In the out years, what it assumes is our staffing levels will remain constant, because we saw, if you went back to the enrollment slide, enrollment's leveling off, so it would make sense that we're not going to continue to decrease staffing unless there's a reason that we would need to do that. And there's no additional staff that is being tentatively planted to at this point. And again, but those things change based on the needs of the district. Having led a small district, and much like we have here in kindergarten numbers, sometimes you think you're only going to need 2 sections, and then 35 kids show up in August. And all of a sudden you're adding in the next section and a half, right? And like, you can't add a half section in kindergarten, it doesn't work. So now you're adding 2. And those are things that you can't control. So, you know, as you have seen the emails going through or the advertising on the signs that to register your kindergartner, that's why that's important for us, because that comes into our staffing plan. But so we are assuming level staffing, and I assumed a 1.5% increase in all out years of the forecast, because we do not have a collective bargaining unit agreement that extends past next year. So I wanted to put a number in there that I thought was, I don't know if fair is the right word, but something that represents that if we would go up or below that, that it's not going to have a huge impact on our forecast. I think it's a reasonable assumption, is what I would say. When it comes to healthcare, I assumed less than the national recommendation for a trend. I assuming that we're going to go up at healthcare at a rate of 7%. Typically, our advisors would recommend between 8 and 10, which is the national average. I think that we can do better than that with the work that we're doing collaboratively with both of the bargaining units, as well as the education and communication that we've been committed to across the district. When you look at purchase services and supplies and materials, 2 of our other large areas, we have our budgets done for next year. So what you see for 25 is actually what we're going to be proposing for the board at the end of the June for our temporary appropriations, which, as we all know, kind of locks into what we finalize in September. So when you see all the values in for 25, that's because we've completed our budgets for the next fiscal year. We've done our zero-based budgeting. Mr. Heath has met with many of the administrative team beyond just our district team to talk to them. I've talked about budgets, talk about budget cuts as he shared with the board. So we feel very confident that the values that we have in 25 are really solid. And we know where we're at with our spending now, because we shut off spending pretty much in April for all of our other budgets. So we feel really confident where we're at for April and where we're going to be at going into May. When it comes to 26, 27, and 28, we look at the economic forecast, and most of our assumptions are anywhere from 2 to 4.5% based on the area. For example, when it comes to the purchasing of buses, we all know we made some adjustments to that purchasing program, but in 3 years, right, 27, when we purchase our first bus again, because we right-sized that, I don't think, assuming that it's going to be a 3% increase from where it's at now, based on what we've seen trend-wise, it's, you know, we try to take that into consideration. We know gas might go up, or utilities may be going up at a different rate. So I don't just put in 3% to each out year in every single category and just assume that. You know, we look at it kind of on an individual basis, and we kind of look at it through each of that lens, and we make some educated guesses or hypotheses, if you will, based on what we're seeing from the economic outlook. And with the fact that the economy really is kind of stagnant, and we're seeing inflation staying kind of high, we're still kind of assuming, you know, that 2.5%, 3% and a little bit higher in certain areas into the future as well. And that's the trends that you see kind of in these slides. Capital outlay, you see decreases in the out years because of the assumptions that we have with our bus purchases, because that's usually where our bus purchases came out of. Just point out in 24, we didn't really spend, well, we did theoretically, $1.8 million in capital outlay. But if you remember, some of the buses that we had ordered from the prior year didn't come in, and they came in at the beginning of this year. So in our world, you account for it when the cash is spent. So that looks a little bit inflated in comparison to out years. So that's why it's a little bit of an outlier. But you'll see in 25 and 26 that those capital outlays are down, and then you start to see in 27, 28 when we start to purchase buses again based on the updated budgeting for that, you'll see that, that it starts to go back up. The other piece that I wanted to point out is that, Mr. Heath, after the failure of the PI levy, had to make some tough decisions. And he spent a lot of time speaking to the safety officials within the city. We had discussions. We talked to Mr. Vaccarello, Director of Business Operations, and he made a lot of cuts down to anything that was nice to have and it wasn't a need was been removed from our capital improvement plan. So with that, you see a lot smaller transfers in 25, 26, and 27. You don't see another transfer again in 28, and that's because we need money to fund the roofing and paving projects that we have to maintain in the district, just to keep the buildings functional. So, those things have been even deeper cuts than we had even presented back in November based on further discussions. Again, just to summarize, as a kind of a logic test, you can kind of see those increases based on those rates that we have, kind of staying in line with inflation. We're not adding staff, and you see the expenses that we are projecting out. So if you look at the next chart, you can really kind of start to materialize the differences in the assumptions that we're making now as and going into the future based on where we're seeing our budget finish, our budget for next year, and assumptions that we're making on decisions for 26, 27, and 28. This shows in accumulation, we're going to reduce the forecast by about $9.8 million because of those decisions. If you remember this chart, which we've looked at a couple times, we're assuming it's about $10.5 million based on some of the assumptions we've had. The discrepancy there is really not material. It's probably, when things come out in the wash, we're probably going to be even a little bit higher than that 10.5, even though we're forecasting about 9.7. It kind of goes to where things are finishing as about right now, and where we might have been a little bit higher in some budgeting for next year to be a little bit more conservative, but a lot less conservative than we've been in the past, if that makes sense. So in November, this graph, I always kind of show it to you all to kind of give you a visual reference of, when we're in trouble from a standpoint of, cash balance is getting low in comparison to our expenditures, and when we need to maybe, we've had the discussion about future levies. As you saw in November, we were looking, kind of getting close to the red in 27, definitely in the red in 28. We showed the graph, if we kind of went out into fiscal year 30, Mr. Lynch, sorry, you can see that we'd have a negative cash balance, beginning balance in 2030 of about $15.8 million. We all know that that's not legally possible, and it's a violation of our policy that we have that says that we can't fall below 15%. Well, now you can see not a huge difference, but we've moved the dial. We're in a much safer position of about $13 million, as we said, in cash balance in 2028. We've reduced, even if we were to take it beyond the forecast, which is legally through 28 to 29. I think that, Mr. Lynch, can you go back 2 slides? I think the key piece that I want to show here too is this was showing, if you remember, if you look in the bottom left corner, it said that, the levy millage needs estimator down there in the bottom left. And if you remember, I was talking in 2025, and we were looking at like a 5 plus, closer to 6 mil levy. Mr. Lynch, if you fast forward now to the same slide for May, I think the key there is now we're in more so the 3.94 to 5.54 mil levy range through the cuts that we've made. And as we go to the next slide that shows just as a reminder to the board and the community, this isn't an arbitrary discussion on levy needs. We have policy that has been created off of the best practices for the Government for Finance Officers Association and the Ohio Association of School Business Officials that we will maintain a minimum general fund cash balance of about 15%, which equates to $17 million that we wouldn't fall below, which is, kind of between the 60 and 90-day cash numbers that I always refer to, which would take us as a foreshadow to our next slide from November. We were talking about how, that kind of by definition, we'd fall below 90 days in 26. So we kind of know that by policy, we're in that range of, no later than 26 to 27 to be able to do that. And I would say that'd be pushing it, and that would not probably be the wisest way to do it, because we'd be pushing up against it, where if levies started to fail, first of all, levies would be larger based on the estimator that I showed. And if it fails, then you have to make significant cuts at that point. Now, we've bought some time, or you've lowered your millage, right? So you can either two ways. You can either ask for less millage, or you can wait to ask for that millage. If you remember this slide from November, there's a delay on my clicker. What I was showing here is that if we wanted to pass a levy in 25, we went through a bunch of scenarios, and this is the one I ultimately recommended to the board. We'd have to pass a 5.9 mil levy in 25. And by doing that, we would only not be deficit spending for 1 year in 27. So even then, if all we did was ask for additional revenue, did nothing else. And if we go to the next slide, if you remember, I said we can't do that. That's not really going to be, that's not going to work. We have to continue to reduce spending as well as seek additional revenue at some point. And what I think is important to note is through the leadership of Mr. Heath and his team, we were shooting for a $5 million reduction, or to get to about $119 million by 2026. And if you go to the last slide, which is my latest kind of scenario, you can see that Mr. Heath and his team have done that. We're projecting expenses of darn near $119 million, a little bit over, $53,000. And with that, what we can actually do, and this is what I was telling the board at the time in November that we could likely do, is we could reduce the ask from 5.9 to probably 4.9. I just wrote in 5 mils here to kind of show this to you in the magic box, so to speak. So in my nice little magic box here, not only did I assume a 5 mil levy, it was based on a 30% valuation increase. So assuming that the valuation in 25 was up 30%, because that's what we're hearing from the auditor that we would see, is that we would look to be generating about $14.5 million annually with a 4.95 mil levy. I know Mr. Heath and I have talked, and we're still committed to trying to find additional ways to underspend the budget going into the future and find other cost-saving measures. So, we could even make that look better. But what it does, as you can see, is that would be 2 years guaranteed of no deficit spending. And I would argue that in 2028, reducing another $1.5 million by then is going to be easily achieved with the decision-making that we have and the things that we're trying to do. So that would, I guess the point being is that if, based on where we're at in May, my recommendation is still to pass by November of 25 at the latest, at least a 4.9 to 5 mil levy, which would then put us in a good position for at least 5 years, if not longer, before you'd have to ask for another levy. So it keeps us on a longer levy cycle than is typical. So key takeaways from this: we've reduced our deficit spending in our out years. We talked about back in November, we must continue to monitor our spending and find ways to control costs, i.e. flatten our expense curve. We have accomplished this. Mr. Heath and his team have been able to do that through the budget planning process, as well as looking at a variety of ways to reduce costs. We did get to $119 million by fiscal year 26 in this forecast that we're presenting. We've increased the cash balance from to $16 million, and we still need to consider general operating dollars by 2025. And we presented this forecast last Thursday to the Citizens Financial Advisory Committee, for which they agreed with, recommended, and approved to bring it to the board and the community for approval here tonight. Happy to take any questions.
I know the Citizens Financial Committee was very complimentary in how you shared all that was accomplished and what was accomplished. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Heath, I ask that we pass items B through G and addendums in one motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Motion's carried 5-0.
I don't have any unfinished business that was brought to my attention. Does anyone have anything?
I have just a quick update from the safety liaison meeting that we had. It was really great, I thought. I think that we're taking some really good steps towards hiring the retired police officers. As we heard, one tonight is retiring, so I'm looking at you. No, I'm just kidding. So hopefully we'll have a contract available. I know we're still working on that, but I was happy to sit in that meeting and hear that we're taking steps towards, having a resource officer in all of our buildings. So I thought that was good news.
That's absolutely true. I think Mr. Heath's coordinating well with the city officials as well as our safety forces made a lot of inroads, and there was definitely a good synchronicity between their outlook, what they think they can accomplish, and what Mr. Heath was presenting.
Yes,
So
we're very grateful to the city of Mentor and the police department for working with us on that.
Mr. Heath, would you, I don't mean to spring this on you, but I know we promised folks an update on class sizes and enrollment back in April when you first reported it out. And you did share some updated information with us not that long ago. If you wouldn't mind just relaying that in a couple of sentences, that would be sufficient for an update.
Yeah, and we actually met with our PTA presidents last week and went through things as well with them so that they had some clear understandings. Again, we're still waiting on the kindergarten numbers to be 100% final, which will happen probably by October. But the class size averages are still in the 21-22 range for grades 1, 2, 3. We're in the 23-24 range for grades 4 and 5. There are 4 hot spots, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head here without my notes in front of me. 5th grade at Hopkins is at 26. 5th grade at Lake is at 27. 4th grade at Hopkins was at 26 as well. And Ridge 4th grade was at 25.2, if I remember correctly. So those are the 4 areas that we're looking at right now. The one thing that we have to also consider is the number of students that are in special education units coming out of those numbers, and that lowers those class sizes a little bit. Right now, all of those kids are included in those numbers. So they're actually a little bit less than that, but those are the 4 hotspots that we've identified right now that we'll continue to monitor. Again, kindergarten will be very important to us, though. We maintained our kindergarten staffing at Hopkins purposefully at 4 sections. Right now, it's still trending kind of low. But if there's a possibility that it's going to stay at that low level, we might even be able to shift a staff member up into 4th or 5th grade. As we get into the summer, that will reduce those class sizes, but we'll see how kindergarten continues to go.
Thank you. And for fuller context, we did talk about some other ways that we might explore moving some things around to reduce those class sizes. So thanks for staying on that. I really appreciate it.
And it seemed like the PTA presidents were very complimentary
good.
with what they were hearing, because naturally, they're each advocating for their own buildings and know it well. So when they were hearing those numbers, there was a lot of comfort, but in general.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we have new business to address, and we have been working on the strategic plan. We have 2 board members that serve on the Guiding Coalition, and we've asked Mrs. Iapolo to give an update on the Guiding Coalition tonight.
Okay, I will go quick, even though this deserves time. So just for those of you who aren't familiar, this Guiding Coalition is the process we're doing to create our 5-year strategic plan. When we say Guiding Coalition, what that means is a group working together to influence outcomes of specific goals. So we had our first one on Thursday, May 2nd, and Mrs. Jessling and I were able to represent as board members, but also as parent and grandparent of current students. The Learner-Centered Collaborative, which is the company that we're using that are guiding us toward this, they're excellent. I've been really impressed by them so far. They've made it clear that they say we are here to best portray the values and aspirations for students. So the first day we had over 35, you saw that picture, that were administrators, staff, parents, community members, and students. We even had some high school students who were very impressive, along with the facilitators from Learner Centered, Marlon and Brittany, who were great. And will they be there tomorrow, both?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So the process before this Guiding Coalition Day, last Thursday the 2nd, the process began with discovery days, and that consisted of 17 classroom visits, 9 student focus groups, 6 adult focus groups, and then looking at the results from 2 of the parent and the staff surveys, and soon to be, we'll be analyzing the community survey. The goal for Thursday was to compile the key findings from the surveys and discovery days and start working on creating what we call a portrait of a learner. So first of all, the framework for the future is something that we're using, and that provides a North Star to inform decision-making and prioritization, a communication tool to show where the district is headed. So what is that? The framework for the future, it compiles our mission, vision, and values, our portrait of a learner, which we'll talk about in a second, and a learning model, and then the blueprint, which basically outlines the strategic plan. So the portrait of a learner, it is a visual representation of essential skills and habits, aspirational, memorable, and easily communicated to students, parents, faculty, and staff. A point was made on that day that most of us didn't know our mission and vision to be able to spring it out just like that. So they want to make sure that that's a priority, and we're creating this new one. A definition of what success looks like and a vision for learners. We spent the day brainstorming priorities. We had deep discussions about the district's strengths and weaknesses, and we blew through a lot of Post-it notes. So I'll explain this. This is just an example. They were constantly breaking us up into individual groups and mixing us up so that we weren't flowing with the same people. One of the things they had us do is come up with a draft, I guess, of a portrait of a learner, and what skills, desired outcomes did we think was important. And so my group, this was an example from my group, and everybody was pretty similar. We probably had 25, 30, maybe more Post-it notes of just these important skills and desired outcomes that we want for our students. And then we were guided to slowly then put those into categories, and we broke it down to 4, I guess, major categories here. And what was kind of neat is that all 4 groups that came up with their 4 categories were almost all the same. So, those might seem a little vague or generic, but guaranteed that with the subcategories under those umbrellas were all things that were really important to that we want to see in our strategic plan. So finally, this is what we were left with, and that people that attended were editing and were asked to share with community members and teachers and to edit and to get feedback. I like that it says at the bottom, I don't know if you can see it, that this will change and evolve based on community feedback. So if anybody knows anyone that has not done the community survey, please do so, and because this will morph and change. And again, it might look a little generic, but as I think we work and we have another one, Guiding Coalition, tomorrow, I'm sure this will change pretty quick. The main goal here is to, identify our weaknesses, find ways to build on our strengths, and I think that we're doing that, and making sure that this is not a generic plan, that this is something that really resonates with the people in this district. So, and I'm confident in that, and I'm excited for tomorrow, although I'll be back in this room in less than 12 hours. So will you guys. So,
Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't have any other new business on the agenda. Is there anything that anyone wanted to speak about? Okay, next we have hearing of the public on any topic.
Ms. Bazan's not here, is she? Kathy McAdams.
Good evening. Last year, I quietly made a donation to Mentor Schools to pay down the school lunch debt of elementary school children. I couldn't pay off the entire $4,400 debt, but I paid 10% of it. This year, I'm doing the same, paying down the debt for Sterling Morton and Fairfax Elementary Schools. I gave the check to Bill earlier. It's in a pink envelope in front of him, I see. Why am I doing this? Because children can't learn if they're hungry. Children in elementary schools can't mow lawns for money or go get a job to help their families. And the families are clearly having been challenged paying for their lunches. I challenge everyone here, including the board, administrators, and everybody in the audience here and at home, to make a donation to pay the student lunch debt, even if it's just $5. Together, we can eliminate that debt. This is the least we can do for all school children, regardless of age. Many parents in the Mentor School District are living paycheck to paycheck, having trouble feeding their families and paying their bills. Even though I have spoken on this several times in this setting, my words simply seem to be ignored. This evening, if you're here, I'd be happy to, if you have it, I'd be happy to accept your donations and turn it right over to the schools to pay down the debt. Or you can send your donation to Mr. Wade with a note explaining the reason for the payment. 100% of the donations go to the student lunch debt. Just for elementary schools, the debt is over $1,500 for this school year so far. That's not the middle schools, that's not the high school. And my check covered maybe, 20%. For parents who are watching, if you can't afford food on the weekends, please contact End 68 Hours of Hunger. And their email is on the website. There is no shame in asking for help when you really need it. You can also contact your child's school for information. Everything is kept confidential. Why do I do this? Because nothing is ever too much to do for a child. And we should all be concerned for the children and nothing more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Ms. Majakis, did she leave? Melanie? Ms. McCormick?
Well, this is a first. I don't have something prepared. I'd just like to make a few statements. First of all, Mrs. Jessling's addressing down of passionate, concerned parents and their comments at the board meetings I thought was quite disturbing, accusing them of venomous comments going towards children if children were involved. First of all, this is a board meeting for adults. It's for the adults to discuss what is happening within our community. It is not for children. And I think that you're here to represent us and you work for us. So dressing us down is quite disturbing, and we won't be forgetting that anytime soon. Also, as far as, Mr. Heath and his actions as superintendent, it's, pornographic, sexually explicit books in the schools. This is a place for minor children. okay? Yeah, we have some adult children, but they can get those books outside of the school. We need to protect the minor children in the school from pornographic material. We've asked you to remove it. We've given you examples of it. Mr. Heath has taken it out of curriculum, yet kept it in the libraries. There is no harm done to any children by taking sexually explicit books out of the library. There is, however, possible harm if they're left in the schools. So I, again, beg you to consider taking out any sexually explicit pornographic materials that can be checked out by minors. Asking the parents to review every single book that their child wants to take out is putting a laborious process on the parents and on our library system. You're constantly saying how it's too cumbersome to go through the library and take out anything that might be harmful to children, yet you want to instill this new checking for the parents' benefit. It doesn't benefit the parents. The parents, what we need is to know that when our kids go to school, they are safe in every aspect, especially when it comes to pornographic and sexually explicit material. So please consider that when you look at Mr. Heath's renewal of this contract. Thanks.
Ms. Mazika. That concludes public participation for tonight.
As we do not have executive session on the agenda, we'll, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Marchaza.
Yes.
Ms. Iapolo.
Yes.
Ms. Jessling.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned at 10:43 p.m.